Welcome back, fourth graders. The last time we had a mini lesson, we talked about rounding using place value. And I want to give you one more strategy for rounding that some of you may like more than place value, some of you may like less, but a good one to understand either way. Okay, good tool for your toolbox, and that is rounding using number lines. So here we go. So I think just as a quick reminder of what we did last time with the place value, let's say I wanted to deal with this number, this 568. We rounded that with place value. So what I did was, if I wanted to round that to, say, the nearest 10, if I'm rounding to the nearest 10, I went to the tens place, and I looked at the digit to the right of it and said, all right, in the tens place is a 6, in the ones place is an 8, and 4 or less told me to round that down to 560. 5 or more told me to round that up to 570, to the next 10. Instead of rounding down to the same 10, round up to the next 10. And since I do have 8, that is 5 or more. So to the nearest 10, I would have rounded this 6 up to the next 10, to 570. So it's about 570. I also can round that to the nearest 100. And if I do that, I look at the hundreds place, and I'm looking over here to decide if I should round that up to the next 100, 600, or round that down to 500. So I looked one place to the right of my hundreds to round to the 100. It is a 6, that's 5 or more, which tells me to the nearest 100 I would round that up to 600. That's what we did last time. So here's an example we did last time. We took 238 and we rounded that to the nearest 10 using place value. Here's another way to do it. I like to use number lines a lot because I think they're very visual. And so if I think about this number 238 and whether I would round that up to the next 10 up, which is 240, or down to the nearest 10 down, which is 230, what I like to do sometimes is think about it on a number line. So I'm going to draw my number line, and I'm going to draw all the tens that are kind of near 238. So I might do something like, say, start maybe at like 220, 230, 240, 250. And number lines keep going on and on, right? 260, 270, 280, they're all over there. And back this way too, 210, 200, 190, but they're all over there. So what I want to ask myself now, so $238 is more than $230 and less than $240. So I know if I were to put that exact thing on the number line, it's somewhere in here. It's more than 230, it's less than 240, and I can find its exact spot actually. I'll kind of say 230, let me get a pen here. 230, 231, 232, 233, 234, 235, 236, 237, 238, 239, 240. So 238 is this one right here, so I would kind of put a dot there. That's 238. And so when you round, when I decide if I'm going to round this up to 240 or down to 230, if I'm using a number line instead of place value, what I'm asking myself is which one is it closer to? Is it closer to 240 or is it closer to 230? I'm rounding to the nearest 10, so I'm looking at those tens places. And I can say, well, obviously it's closer to 240, so I would round that up to 240. So that's another way to do it, is just to round it to the closer number if you like visuals and drawing and kind of things you can really see. All right? Let's do one more together. Same one as last time. So we rounded 395 to the nearest 10 or the nearest 100. I think we did both. So let me make some more space. And you can do this. You can do this on the same page you did it with place value if you have room, if you want to do it side by side. Or if you'd like, you can just do it on another page. So we got a 395-minute school day. And I think we started by doing that. Let's do it to the nearest 10 first. Let's just do that. So the nearest 10, I'm going to do some sets of 10 that are around 395. So I might go down a few and say, all right, maybe I'll start my number line at like 380. Leave a lot of space. 390. Leave a lot of space. 400. Leave a lot of space. 410. Leave a lot of space. 420. Now I'm out of space. 430, 440, 450. And I'm out of space this way, but I don't need the numbers less than 380. And I don't need the numbers above 420. So I just put this arrow to let me know, like, yeah, it keeps going on and on. That way. Yeah, it keeps going on and on. This way. No problem. So now I got to find where 395 goes on all this. So 395 is more than 390. And it is less than 400. So it's going to be in kind of this block here. Notice my numbers go by tens. In case you didn't catch it, the reason my numbers go by tens is because I'm rounding to the nearest 10. So let's see, 391, 392, 393, 394, 395, 396, 397, 398, 399, 400. And fives are a tricky one. See, remember from place value we said 4 or less, round down. 5 or more, round up. And 5's a tricky one because when I find exactly where this goes, 391, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's this one. And 395, I want to know, is it closer to 400 or is it closer to 390? It's actually exactly the same. 395 is 5 away from both. And you've got to know this trick from place value to know that. If it's equal from both, you round up. It's just a thing math folks have decided to do. And so 5 or more, we just go ahead and round up. Even though it's equally distanced, we go ahead and round it up if it's a 5. So this would round to the nearest 10 would be up to the next 10, which is 400. All right, let's go back and do it to the nearest 100 now. I'm going to draw my number line, and now I'm going to go, since I'm rounding to the nearest 100, I'm going to count by hundreds. Like, I might even start at 0 on this. 0, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. And I've got to think about where 395 would go on this number line. 395 is more than 300, but less than 400. So it's in there somewhere. And boy, I could, but I sure don't want to mark every number between 3 and 400 here. Like I did that with the 10s. 391, 392, 393, 394, 395. That wasn't so bad because I had to do 10. Here I'd have to do 300, 301, 302, 303, 304, 305, 306. It would take a long time. So I'm going to kind of think about where 395 is. 395 is very close to 400. It's only 5 away. Because I want to think about like 350 being there. 395 is way over here. And so if I'm going to round that to the nearest 100, I'm asking myself, is that closer to rounding that down to the 300? Or is that closer to rounding that up to the 400? Obviously, that's much closer to 400, so I'm going to round 395 up to 400, because that's what it's closer to. That is your I do and we do. Make sure you carefully write these down. If you need to go back through and listen again, please do that. Otherwise, we will finish this up tomorrow.